listening to Something Cheeky, a collection of podcasts where two sisters discuss TV, books, and movies with just enough irreverence and far too many pop culture references.
Welcome to Something Cheeky, where we discuss the TV series Vikings. I'm Nikki.
I'm Rosanna.
Well, I've watched the entire series. Rosanna has only watched up to what we're covering today, which is Season 2, Episode 8, Boneless. In this episode, everyone takes Fleetwood Mac's advice and goes their own way. So, Rosanna, what was your reaction to this episode?
Well, my reaction to this episode was very different than my reaction to the last episode.
Yeah?
This episode was a lot tamer, especially violence-wise, because nobody got their back opened up with a knife.
Yeah.
So, I appreciated that. I think a lot of stuff happened during this episode, but I think it was a little more chill. However, there's a lot of things seem like they're sort of simmering. There's unrest among our characters.
Yeah, there are 2 more episodes in this season, and so it's reaching the climax, I guess.
Yeah.
That you'd expect in a season ending. What's your favorite quote this time?
The quote I chose is by King Horik. He's talking to Ragnar. He says, "There is not going to be a next time, Ragnar, unless you agree you will never ever do anything again without consulting me first." Never ever do anything again? I feel like that was kind of an overreach of his power in this relationship.
I went straight to back-talking my parents when I was thinking about this, when I heard that quote. I was like, so do I have to ask you to go to the bathroom? And just...
Yeah. And I thought it was weird, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more later, but Horik says to Lagertha, "We're all equals, but Ragnar thinks he's more equal than the rest of us," which, okay, that's not what equal means, for one thing. And another thing, later on, you said we are not equals to Ragnar.
Yep.
So, like, Horik, what? No. He's all kinds of wrong.
Can't have his cake and eat it too. He's not Marie Antoinette.
Exactly. Or Paula Abdul. Doesn't she have a song where she sings, "You can't have your cake and eat it too"? Anyway. King Horik is no Paula Abdul.
I agree. I'm trying to remember if the Have Your Cake and Eat It Too was included in the Marie Antoinette movie with Kirsten Dunst.
Did see that, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was so stylized.
Yeah. I kind of like movies that are old, but they go stylized, where they sort of update some parts of it and modernize it. Like A Knight's Tale is a perfect example, because they use music that's popular music, like AC/DC.
Wait. Are you saying that AC/DC hasn't been around for
since
600 years?
Since King Arthur's time?
I mean, they're pretty old, right?
Sadly for those people, no, they haven't been around quite that long.
All the Australians are just, like, shaking their head.
Do Australians not like AC/DC?
They're from Australia.
Oh, then they do like them.
I can't speak to that.
You can't speak to the taste of every single Australian?
Every single one.
Anyway.
Let's get into it. So, Aslaug is in labor. What seems to be a really, really bad labor. Everybody in the room looks incredibly worried. Ragnar and Siggy are both a little freaked out. It's nice that Ragnar's actually there, because so many period pieces, the guy isn't even in the room. He's, like, off drinking brandy with somebody somewhere.
Right.
I like that he's around for the actual labor.
You know, say all the bad things that you want to about Ragnar, but as a father, he's 10 out of 10. Until midway through this episode.
I was about to say,
Then he's 0 out of 10. But then he comes back up, though. He's very committed to his family.
To be fair on that end, he did leave the child out to die, but his reasoning was like everybody else except Aslaug's reasoning, is that he didn't think they would have a life worth living in the way their society is. Not saying that makes it okay, but...
Yeah, I don't think it's right, but you can see his thought process behind it.
To him, it's merciful.
Everybody said that. Well, okay, I guess it's not fair to say everybody. It's to be assumed that everybody thinks that way, because Siggy also said that.
So Siggy is talking to Aslaug to get her to pull through and wake up because she's passed out, and start pushing so the baby can come out. And as she's talking, they move the camera, and in the background... they quickly pass by a woman who is, I don't recognize her, but she's sitting next to a loom. She has thread in her hands and a pair of what look like scissors or a knife to cut thread. Did you see her at all?
I saw that there was a woman that I didn't recognize sort of in the background of several shots.
I wonder the way that they had that set up, if that was supposed to be a representation of the fates, like in Greek mythology, because there's one woman who spins the thread, then a woman who measures the thread, and then a woman who cuts the thread, and it all represents life, which seemed pretty prescient for this moment where Aslaug may die. She doesn't seem to be doing very well. The baby may die too.
Yeah.
That really stood out to me. It was all too perfect to be accidental.
Right.
So I don't know. I thought that was an interesting little point.
It was an intentional reference.
Yeah. Aslaug wakes up and manages to have the baby after pushing for 2.5 seconds. Lucky her. And a baby is born, and it's a boy.
Shocking.
Yeah. Aslaug doesn't look very happy about it. Ragnar comes up and he cuts the umbilical cord with his teeth and ties it.
Gross.
Yeah, and we see that something is obviously wrong with the baby to them, but they don't show us what it is. At that point, did you have any theories about what it could be?
I thought maybe it was like birthmarks.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Like the wine stain
sort
of thing.
Port wine, yeah.
Yeah, like some kind of discoloring. I don't know, because that to me, I don't know if this is just me being lazy, but seemed like an easy thing for the production crew. I mean, for the show makers to make somebody look different and have something going on with them that was like something on their skin.
Yeah, without CGI.
Like a second head or something. Yeah. So, you never know. When they say monster, you never know which direction that's going to go. I guess maybe a tail it could have been.
Well, the last one had a snake in his eyes, so why not a snake tail on the next one?
Sure, why not? Or like a lion tail with a mane. That would be actually amazing.
All I can think of is the guy with the tail in Orphan Black.
Oh,
it was
gosh.
so gross. And it even moved. Ugh.
I was not expecting deformed legs.
So we're still in Kattegat. Horik wants to go to England soon. He's talking to Lagertha and Bjorn standing on this harbor. He's pushing Lagertha to get ready. And she says, I have to go back. It'll take some time. And he wants to know how much time. Bjorn in the background says, just enough time. No more, no less. So sassy. So sassy. I love him.
Horik is like a child. When do we get to go? When do we get to go? Is it time to go? Is it time to go now? Do we get to go now? Gosh. Just when it's time to go, it'll be time to go. Bjorn was the adult in that conversation for sure.
I don't know if I'd say that.
Oh, I'll tell you what. There have been plenty of times when my children have said over and over, is it time to go? Are we going to go? Is it time to go? And I said, when it's time to go, it'll be time to go. And I think that's kind of what he said.
They find out that Ragnar has a new son. Horik is super bitter. The gods cannot stop offering him their blessings. He's so whiny.
Well, I mean, his son did get killed, so I could kind of understand his feelings that way because he's lost his son. And in the time that he's known Ragnar, he's gotten, 4?
I think he's
5?
up to like 12 kids at this point.
He's got a full baseball team.
Oh, yeah.
I can understand Horik being a little bitter about that.
This episode, so I was taking notes, and I feel like I had to take so many more notes than usual because it was all over the place.
It really was.
Just in one scene, Horik's whining about England. Then they find out Ragnar has a son. Then Bjorn professes his love for Thurin. And then they know something's wrong with the baby. That was 2 scenes right
there.
The
whole episode was like that.
They shoved so much information in this episode.
I don't know if they were like writing out the shows and like, oh, we're almost to the end of the season. We still have a lot to talk about. Just shove it all into one episode.
Yep. Make everything happen. I was surprised when Thorin was totally okay with Bjorn being in love with her. Last time we saw her, she was very resistant to this whole idea.
Was.
And now suddenly I don't know if a ton of time has passed and she's just kind of given up resisting, or
maybe he really did win her over.
Maybe. I wish we had seen that. I would have liked to see that fumbling romance of Bjorn's. It was so entertaining every time we saw it.
And also it's nice to see a relationship progress in what we consider a normal, non-oppressive way. Because, the assumption is, in this show anyway, if a man wants to have a relationship with a woman, he's pretty much just going to. It would have been nice to have seen Bjorn make an effort to actually win her affection and for her to say, yes, I do care about you.
And also a relationship that started out more innocently. Everyone else is an old hand at all of this. It's nobody's first time, but this seemed so new to Bjorn.
Right.
And maybe Thurin too, we don't really know. But it would have been nice to see that progress in front of our eyes instead of just assuming it happened when we weren't around to see it.
Because the way they set it up, it sort of looks like he just wore her down. Because, last we saw she was not interested, and now she's kissing him with what appears to be enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And, we hope it's because she likes him and not that he just won't leave her alone and she doesn't feel like she has a choice. But, we're not given that.
Right after that, Lagertha and Horik and Bjorn find out that something is wrong with Ragnar's son. And it seems like maybe Siggy knows, but she won't tell us. But of course, later we find out she doesn't actually know what's going on at all. Then we go to a fight scene. I mean, it's jumping around like crazy. Rollo and Bjorn are fighting with real weapons. There was kind of a strange moment where Bjorn got cut by Rollo on his stomach and his arm pretty badly. And then it was actually just his imagination because he stood up and the cuts weren't there. I didn't really understand what that was about.
I was very confused at that part too. Because I thought he actually cut him. And then when he stood up, he wasn't cut and there was no blood. And I was just like... I mean, really, I just sat there like that. What?
My first thought was, oh, they messed up and didn't get the makeup. Like the continuity was messed up from this scene. But I think it was just someone's imagination. I don't know who was imagining it.
Was that Bjorn imagining that, or was it Rollo imagining that?
Now that I think about it, I wonder if it was Bjorn imagining it because of his anxiety about the battles he was going to have to fight in England.
Well, and I don't think it was Rollo, because Rollo, for one thing, is a really confident fighter, and I think that he wouldn't hurt Bjorn unless he meant to, even if he was trying to teach Bjorn to fight better. And also what he says later, I'll always be right there with you. I think he was trying to calm Bjorn about an upcoming fight, and so that is sort of a way for the show to say Bjorn is feeling some anxiety. So maybe we were supposed to put those two things together.
I don't know if I'm just too dense for this, or if they were just too subtle with that.
I think it was pretty subtle. If you weren't paying attention for that little bit of time there, you would have completely missed that. And if I wasn't watching the show in a way that I need to watch it to talk about it later, I might have missed it. I mean, you know what I mean? I pay way closer attention to this show than I do any other show that I watch, because I'm taking mental notes. Sometimes I'm taking actual notes because I know we're going to talk about it. So it would have been really easy to miss that.
Right after Rollo and Bjorn have a really nice moment together. Mm-hmm. Rollo says, "Your mother's an amazing woman," and they're talking about love and how love is wasted. And they're laughing about it, and it was so nice to see Rollo smile.
It's a big surprise to see all his teeth, for once.
It completely transformed his face.
Yes. It made me a little sad, though, because the way he was talking about love, almost like it's not worth it or doesn't really believe in it, made me feel bad for Siggy, because I really thought that he was getting to a point where he loved her, but maybe it is just affection. And he's sort of like, I loved Lagertha, and look what that did to me, so I'm not going to love again.
He's given up a lot of who he had been before. And with that was, the passion he felt for Lagertha. So I think with Siggy, maybe it's not the passion, it's just it's comfortable, which is very different from passion.
Oh, definitely.
And if he had actually gotten together with Lagertha, like that would have ever happened. But if that had happened, it, by this point too, it would be companionship rather than passion, I would expect at this point.
Maybe with those two, but I think, Lagertha and Ragnar were together for quite a while, and they still had passion. I think it depends on the people. I mean, they had a lot of passion until he cheated on her.
Oh,
Ragnar had too much passion.
Dumbass.
And boy, I think he's just kicking himself about it. I know he's happy to have his sons, but every time he sees Lagertha, he's like, dang it, she's the best.
Yes, she is. We get back to Aslaug and Ragnar with the baby, talking about infanticide, basically, for the baby's own good. And I think they're both just grieving about what they thought they would have with a child and his future. Ragnar takes the baby down to the woods at dawn to kill him. He pulls out his axe. Then there's a cut to commercial, and then he's walking away from a baby lying on the ground.
I thought that was really weird, too. So he decided the baby had to die. So then he decided he was going to kill the baby with his axe. Then he decided he was just going to let the baby die when exposed to the elements.
That's what it seemed
like.
But
then Aslaug came right after him. I just wonder how committed he really was to that, because he knew she would be looking for him.
I think he was, definitely going to kill the baby himself, but then he just couldn't bring himself to do it. So he left it to nature to do it.
Well, but I don't think he even really did that. I think he left the baby there, but whether subconsciously or consciously, he had to know that a brand new mother who wakes and her baby's not there is going to come find that baby.
Yeah, but who knows if she'd know where he had gone. Yeah, I think he lost his nerve.
Well,
definitely.
And I think that he might have decided to himself that he left it up to the gods, but I think he probably knew there was a chance that she was going to come find him and, rescue him or save him, I guess. I mean, she already said didn't want that to happen to him. So
right.
He had to know that she was going to fight more for it.
Siggy wants to know what's wrong with the baby, and Aslaug shows his legs to her. And Siggy, says, like everybody else, that they should let him die. And Aslaug with the, thank you for your good advice, but I would rather die myself than take it. Just heartbreaking. Then we go to Hedeby, where Lagertha returns, surrounded by her shield maidens. Looks like you got your Amazon tribe wish, after all.
Totally! Wasn't that just what it looked like?
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I was really happy that she was just surrounded by women. She's welcomed home. Everyone's really excited that they're going to go to England. She gives orders to prepare the ships and warriors, but Mr. Beheader Dude does not look very happy about the situation. And then Lagertha's in the bath with Peeping Tom. Beheader Peeping Tom. I don't know what to call him. Einar, I think is his name. She knows he's watching and she tells him to come in, gives him a nice little show. We get to see her leg tattoos that we've never seen before. And then there's the nice twist. It turns out his help in killing Earl Douchebag was completely planned out because he wanted to marry her.
Yeah.
She is not interested in getting married. And I wasn't positive if she was going back on her word or if she just kind of tricked him but never actually said straight out that she would marry him.
Let him assume without actually agreeing to it. Maybe she said something like, well, if my husband was dead, I'd be free to marry someone.
Yeah, I'm just imagining her like one of the fairies in so many magical books, like What Mortal Instruments and Dresden Files, where they can't tell a lie, but they can definitely get around the truth. Very sneaky. He grabs her, threatens her with a knife, and says he's going to cut her face if she doesn't have sex with him, which is totally the way to get a woman in the mood. I was going to say,
well, now. Before, no, but since she brought a knife out and threatened me.
When you put it that way, so sexy. My note was just, she dominatrixes the shit out of him by saying his family doesn't respect him. He can only kill a dying man because he's a coward, and just breaks him down without ever having to fight him, which she definitely could do.
Right.
I love Lagertha.
She's the best. I say it every time, but she always is.
I'm really excited for you to see her in the upcoming episodes.
Yay!
And next season too. It's fun. So we get to Wessex and we get a new character. Everyone's waiting to see Kwenthrith, which is a hard name to say, Kwenthrith.
I've just been calling her Quen, like Gwen, like Gwendolyn. Okay. So I just call her Quen. She's got too many TH's sounds in there.
Well, and Aethelwulf says everyone is murdering everyone at this point. Being very sarcastic, saying, of course, his father doesn't care what happens in Mercia, the largest and richest kingdom.
Why should we care about that?
Yeah, of course not. He's not an ambitious man. What do you mean?
No, not at all.
And we get to the feast, and there are chickens off flambe. I was singing the Beauty and the Beast song in my head. Turns out Kwenthrith is a vegetarian. I think in this episode, we learn, I'm going to say 3 things about Kwenthrith. 1, she's a vegetarian. 2, she might be a nymphomaniac. And 3, she's super blunt.
She might be a nymphomaniac?
I don't want to classify her as that quite yet. But it does seem to be leaning
She has an overactive sexual appetite? Okay.
Yes, we'll go with that. Or an incredibly healthy sexual appetite.
I mean, how do you define healthy?
That's a very good question. I'm not going to define it.
I am also not going to define it. I suppose it's up to interpretation. But at this time, this is not what women were like. I mean, they were not allowed to be this way, in public. So whatever you want to call it now, these people were probably just like, whoa, what?
Way too forward compared to all the other women.
And even men didn't really talk like that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, she just puts it all out there. Like, figuratively and literally. I don't really like her. Not because of her sexual appetite. Do whatever you want. You do you, boo-boo, right? But I don't like the bluntness. And that, to me, is just a personality thing that I don't like. So, That's a turn off for me.
Okay. You don't like it when she tells it like it is?
I don't know. She just, I don't know.
Does she
Yeah,
rub you
it's
the wrong
kind of
way?
like the sort of, I don't know, is brash the right word?
Yeah.
Just like really in your face. And I like a little more subtlety, I guess. We'll go with that.
Yeah. I don't know why you and I get along, because I'm not generally very
Well,
subtle at
Nikki,
all.
you got brought to my house when I was 2 years old and I haven't really had a choice since. So,
Kwenthrith is interested in Athelstan. She wants to know if the pagans sacrifice humans and if they're monogamous. And he just says they have a different morality. And then suddenly has a sexual fantasy about her. Where the hell did that come from?
like, Athelstan, what are you doing, you weirdo?
Listeners, you may hear us call him Athelstan and think his name is Athelstan. What are you talking about? So maybe by the first episode or something, we met Athelstan and Rosanna couldn't remember his name. And so I told her it was like an apple stand. And so
We just decided that was his name. And I call him Athelstan when it's just like a regular conversation. But if I'm feeling like a lot of emotions about him, I'll call him Athelstan. So you can tell how I'm feeling about him by which name I use.
if you're protective, you use his whole name.
If I'm feeling motherly toward him and his crazy nervous breakdown, I'll call him Athelstan. I'll call him by his good Christian name.
I just realized we don't know what his last name is. Does he have a last name?
Were people, well, I guess people were into last names then, but it doesn't seem like they're used very much.
No. Except for everybody who calls Ragnar Lothbrok whenever they're mad at him.
He's the only one that they use his last name. I wonder also, too, when Athelstan joined the monastery, if he put away his family name. You know what I mean?
Did he? Is it like Taking the Black
Yes.
in Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Or Song of Ice and Fire? You give up your family name. He used to be a Targaryen, Athelstan Targaryen, and now he's
like
just
this crossover
Athelstan.
you're talking about right now. Yeah. I don't think he could be a Targaryen, though.
Aemon was amazing.
He'd probably be more like a Robert
Baratheon?
Baratheon. I think he'd be a Baratheon.
No.
Yeah.
No, he'd probably be like a Tully or a
Tully?
What's
No.
What's the Rose family? Marjorie Tyrell.
Okay, I could see him as a Tyrell. Let's just call him Applestand Tyrell.
I'm okay with that. He's been classified. He's too sweet for any of the other houses.
That's a good point.
No, I would love to see a crossover with Athelstan and Sam.
Yeah.
Just hanging out.
Just having, like, theological conversations. I think they probably both really like that.
So the brother that Kwenthrith killed is Kenelm, who is already sainted by Pope's decree, apparently. Also, we learned that he raped her when she was 12, which is a weird thing to pronounce to a table at a feast.
Well, and also, I think that the chances of that having been a one-time thing, probably pretty slim. And I wonder if that has something to do with the way she acts now. I think that's a pretty normal reaction to that kind of trauma.
I was interested in the accuracy historically of this, so I looked it up. There was a Saint Kenelm. There are some very conflicting stories about him. The story with the church is that he was a child king around 12 years old who was killed by his sister Quindrida and her lover. But historical records suggest that he lived till he was actually about 25 and was sainted after he gave some land to the church and died later, not long after that. In that story, in what they think is the actual historical event, his sister Quindrida, whatever her name actually was, it's debatable. Mm-hmm. She actually entered the cloister when her father died and became an abbess, which is very different from the Kwenthrith on this show.
Pretty much the exact opposite.
Yeah. Unless you're reading one of those romance novels that's like in a convent full of... What is it, a TV show or a movie where there was some guy who was having sex with all the nuns?
What kind of filth are you watching?
No, there was something, I can't remember what... Oh my god, that's going to drive me crazy.
I have no idea what you're referring to. The sacrilege you are throwing down right now.
I keep thinking Outlander.
It was not Outlander.
It was frickin' Casanova. Heath Ledger played Casanova, and he had sex with all the women in a convent.
They were willing participants?
Oh, yeah. Like, he would go visit, and they'd all be so excited to see him.
As a Catholic person, that makes me uncomfortable, even if I'm not practicing.
Well, I mean, all the nuns were there, because it was, Venice or something like that, and during the Renaissance, and so it was all these women who had been put in there by their families. it wasn't that they chose. She knows exactly why Ecbert invited her and declares she's going to win all this infighting. I was surprised that Ecbert didn't save Aethelwulf for her to marry.
That would have been smarter.
Yeah, I mean, he needed Ayla, yeah, but it seemed like getting her on his side, that's a bigger kingdom.
Maybe he's not sure if she's actually going to succeed. And if he marries his son to her and then they go back to rule the lands and somebody decides that they have a better claim to the throne, they'll kill her and Aethelwulf. So maybe he wanted to wait until she was more secure as queen. I know she's princess now, but would that make her a queen?
Yeah, she's princess. Yeah, though maybe he wants to marry her. He doesn't seem to have a wife.
He does want to, yeah.
And he's certainly having sex with her.
Certainly did for some amount of time.
Oh man, and so Kwenthrith implies, not very subtly, that she would totally sex up Aethelwulf, who is very amused by this, whose wife is not amused by this at all.
Not at all.
It's so weird to see the woman playing Judith. They recast that role, I think, in the next season. And so it's a completely different woman. They actually look very similar, but it's very obvious that it's not the same person. Yeah, and so whenever I see her, I have to remind myself that that's Judith. It's weird. Oh, Ecbert says he's going to hire Northmen as mercenaries to help her get the throne in Mercia. That was a big surprise to me, but I thought it was a pretty good idea if they would go for it. Do you think they would?
I think their chances after what happened at the end of the episode are a lot lower.
That's true.
I don't think he's going to be wanting to make many deals with them after that. They've not proven themselves to be very trustworthy.
No. You know, Kwenthrith has heard about their prowess in multiple ways, and unsurprisingly would like to get to know some Vikings. I feel like she is interested in absolutely anyone who seems like they might be interested too.
I don't know if she even cares if they're interested.
Very low standards. Then we see Kwenthrith having sex with Ecbert. He finishes before she does, and does not seem to care about helping her finish as well. I shouldn't be surprised that he is a selfish lover. He seems pretty selfish in general. He doesn't even offer to, help her out. He's just like, whatever, let me send some other dudes in for you.
I just need a nap. I don't care what you need.
He just acts like she's insatiable. And while that might be true, it doesn't seem like they've been at it for very long, considering her reaction to him being done already.
She thought he was hurt. She's like, are you okay? Are you okay? So, if there's cause for concern, it couldn't have been very long.
And again, she's interested in Athelstan. She wants him to come help her out, too. He lived with the pagans, and pagans like sex, don't they?
So should he, right?
Mm-hmm. Ecbert, when he goes to send some of his soldiers in, he's whispering to one, and he looks pretty startled, and Ecbert just says, good luck. They're very excited to help out. It's a pretty big departure from when we saw Earl Haraldson and Siggy, and the guy who wanted to sleep with Siggy, and that being a big old trap. I think Ecbert's just like, whatever, I'm done with her. We get back to Kattegat, where they're preparing for a voyage, and we get little bits of basically everybody that is there. Lagertha is getting her ships all together, and I love closed captioning. We just hear, there was one piece that just said, Old Warrior, now we will win! We get a name for the baby. It's Ivar. Now Ivar the Boneless, officially. Did you see Lagertha was doing that bowl of water spit thing and passing it around?
Yes.
I didn't need to see that again. At least they do it the same way in her group as they do with the men.
That's not really that comforting.
Bjorn is chasing Thurin and says he doesn't care what people think since he'll probably die in battle. Still, he's got that anxiety about it. And now she's in love with him, too.
Yes.
I don't know how he got there, but okay. And then Floki and Helga are lying in a field. He says he's going to travel with Horik and not Ragnar. He thinks he understands the gods better than Ragnar. The real gods, the gods that haunt me. He seems pretty dark in this episode.
He does, yeah.
Siggy tells Rollo she'll wait for him, and he accepts her back, which is pretty nice. Very heartwarming. One big thing about this whole episode is nobody seemed very excited to go back to England like they did before. It's much more solemn this time around. And then we see the women up on the hill watching everybody sail away. I counted, 16 ships?
I was trying to count them too, and I couldn't keep track.
Yeah, there were at least 16, and that was before it cut away when we saw some more coming in. So they've got a big group of people, especially if they can fit 100 people on each ship. I mean, that's a lot.
What? 100 people on each ship?
I was reading about Viking ships, and they could usually fit about 100 people. Actually, these seem too small.
There's no way they're putting 100 people on those ships. I thought didn't Lagertha say she had 100 warriors?
Yeah.
I'm thinking like
And 4
15
ships.
or 20.
Yeah. So yeah, they definitely didn't have that many, but I think usually Viking ships were much larger, yeah. But some of them were really light. Some of them were built in a way that they were so light that they could be carried over land.
Wow, that's a really good idea.
Mm-hmm. So we get the voyage started, and Ragnar tells everybody that he heard from the seeker that Apple was alive, even though Horik said he was dead and that he betrayed him, which is new information for me.
Right, and he didn't anyway, so shut up, Horik.
Yeah, definitely not. And so Floki and Horik are on a ship together. I like the back and forth. I love all of Floki's conversations with everybody.
Yeah.
Horik says, "It is my judgment that a boat builder is worth 10 earls. And how many kings?" said Floki. And Horik seems to know just what to say to really touch Floki's heart, saying his ideas come from the gods, and he wants him to build ships for him. Bjorn seems really worried about the battle, Rollo's reassuring him. And then Erlander sights land, and we are in Wessex. The Northmen's ships are sighted, and it turns out Ragnar has a black raven flag that he flies that I hadn't noticed before, but they recognize it as his. And Ecbert tells Athelstan, who does not give anything away when he finds out. What did you think he was thinking about all this? About Ragnar being back?
I can't decide if he is happy about it or not.
Oh, yeah?
I think maybe he is, but I don't know. He's a good actor.
Yeah, both George Blackton and Athelstan are good actors.
I think he was definitely rattled because he made a mistake, but I don't know if it's because he was excited or because he's scared.
Certainly doesn't know what that means for him, and he probably doesn't know what he wants it to mean for him either.
I really liked that Lagertha seemed happy to hear that he was alive, and Bjorn was really happy about it.
Yeah, it was really nice
I hope
to
they
see
have a reunion.
everybody react to that, and Ragnar was so touched when he got the armband, the arm ring.
Which, okay, they gave him the arm ring, but that doesn't prove that Athelstan is alive.
No, it really doesn't.
That just proves that they have his
Yeah.
armband. It could have been attached to an arm 10 minutes before they handed it to him. So...
They probably could have taken it off some other Viking warrior that they killed at some
Oh,
point.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, they could have. Mm.
Athelstan does say that Ragnar will listen to reason,
Yes,
which is true, I think.
I believe so.
So we get to the Viking camp. It's raining and everyone is so sullen about it. They do not like England. It's just, yeah. Horik wants to know where Ragnar sent Torsten. He says it was to talk to Ecbert. And Horik and Lagertha are incensed. They're so mad that he did not consult with them. And then they fight for a while, and Lagertha and Ragnar just... She says, "What do we do now?" He says, "Wait. For what? The unexpected." It was just...
That's frustrating.
I would be so mad if I were her, too. I mean, it's one thing for him to not tell Horik because he's shown to be unpredictable. But Lagertha?
Well, he didn't tell Lagertha what his plans were when they went to England the first time.
That's
He didn't
true.
tell even Rollo, and Rollo was really upset about that. He's not really a sharer of his plans. He just does them.
Yeah.
So I wasn't surprised that that's the way it worked, but... And I don't know why Lagertha was surprised. I know why
Maybe
she's
because she
mad,
thought she
but-
came here as his equal, and he is certainly not treating her that way. She has her own command this time. Last time she didn't.
She not only has her own people, she has more than those two guys put together. There's nothing equal about this partnership. She has brought by far more to this arrangement than either one of them. I mean, Horik, does he even have any people left?
Mm-hmm.
He can't have
they were
very
all
many.
killed, and he and his son got away, but I don't know.
Right.
He came back on the ship with like 5 people when he came back to Kattegat. Floki goes to Horik's tent after he stalks away all angry. What do you think about that?
I don't know what to think about that. Floki does not strike me as the type of person that betrays loyalty very easily. So if he is leaving Team Ragnar for Team Horik, I mean, it seems like that's what they're trying to make us think. That just doesn't seem like his character to me.
Okay.
And also, they're trying to make us think that Floki's mad at Ragnar, but what is he supposed to be mad at him about? I mean, I know they said, he said he didn't want Ragnar to be at the wedding because everything is about Ragnar, and he wanted this to not be about Ragnar, which is fine and understandable. But was there some sort of conflict between the two that Floki is basing this stuff on? I don't remember there being anything like that. Is he just all of a sudden...
What about Athelstan? Ragnar's relationship with Athelstan seems to have impacted his relationship with Floki. And Ragnar has obviously not forgotten about Athelstan, too. He asks about him a lot. Floki is never happy when he asks about him.
is it about jealousy or is it about his devotion to the faith?
Or both.
I mean, Floki is kind of childish sometimes, but it seems like he's only childish the way he acts, not the way he thinks.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's going on with him. But I think it's a bad idea to get in the tent with Horik.
So Aethelwulf shows up with a small number of men, puts down a sword. He's quickly surrounded by just layers of Vikings. I would be crazy scared if I were him. I think that took a lot of guts to just walk into camp and do that. Especially since we know they're violent. He's been a hostage before. I'm sure they treated him fine, but he knows how dangerous they are. And he doesn't know why they're back either. He says they have to have an exchange of hostages again, which everyone seems fine with. He guarantees safe passage to them. And Ragnar says that everyone is going to go. All of them. Mm-hmm. Which I'm assuming that means Ragnar and Lagertha and Horik. It seems like Lagertha might actually speak and understand Saxon now. When she responded, it was in the same language. They didn't switch to Old Norse like they usually do when they're speaking two different languages. So I wonder if she's learned some. Well, Horik looked really uncomfortable, so I don't think that he knows any.
It's not at all surprising.
He didn't know what was going on.
I mean, if it is the case that Lagertha has learned it, and it wouldn't surprise me if Horik did not. And he's had some opportunity anyway because of Athelstan, so I think he just assumed, I don't need to know it, and that seems like a lot of work.
Lagertha lived with Ragnar when Athelstan was teaching him Saxon in the first place. So it would make sense that she'd learn some as well.
Yeah,
and Bjorn, too, at that point. So I thought it was kind of weird. This entire scene is interspersed with cuts of King Ecbert pouring grain through his hand in a hall. That was so weird. I'm not sure what that was about.
It was supposed to be symbolism for something, but I did not get it.
Yeah. My notes just say a bit too metaphorical for me. I have no idea what that was. I mean, Ragnar wants grain. He wants to grow. But yeah, it was too subtle for me.
Yeah, it's kind of like fake cuts. It's like, you guys are going to have to spell it out. We're not getting it.
It's funny because sometimes they are so in-your-face obvious with this stuff.
Yes. Like when Ragnar was standing by the water and he had the eagle or the hawk. Yeah. I mean, they're just screaming at you at that point, and then they're like, "Ooh, we cut him, but is he really?" It's like I don't know. Is he?
Is it the manifestation of his anxiety about battle?
Ooh, good one. Yeah, I'm not sure what we're supposed to take from the whole grain through the fingertips.
Aethelwulf and his group leave, and then they're suddenly attacked. It's a trap. Yeah, they're attacked and. Some Vikings are obviously laying in wait for them.
Yeah.
Because they had, the net pulled up to stop them on their horses. And it's Erlander and some other people. There's this, it's almost slow motion where he goes to get a sword and Erlander has this look on his face. And I couldn't decide if he wanted to kill Aethelwulf or have sex with him. It was one of those kind of weird, like head tilted down, which he does that look a lot. But it was especially intense this time.
I kept expecting him to say something like, "And this is for my brother."
Yeah.
And that never happened, but that's kind of what I thought was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
My mini prediction mid-show did not come true.
Do you think Ragnar knew about this, or was this just Horik?
I do not think Ragnar knew.
Okay.
Because Ragnar wants to make a deal.
I mean, sometimes he has twisty things going on.
It makes more sense to me for this ambush that doesn't make sense to come from Horik.
Yeah, he's unpredictable and not in a good strategic way.
When he decides to do something, it never makes any sense. He's very reactive with no strategy. And it screws stuff up, obviously.
Yeah.
Look what it did to poor Jarl Borg. That guy got filleted because of King Horik. I put that blame on Horik.
Yeah, he was totally screwed by the whole situation.
And he did the best that he thought he could to reclaim his honor. What he did is what you would expect somebody to do when they're treated that way. And he got killed for it. Understandably also. But I'm just saying, that all traces back to Horik. All the problems trace back to Horik, I think.
Yeah, in multiple ways, because it wasn't just Horik who turned around and wanted him to not go with him to England after all. And then later said he was going to save him, but didn't. Also, he's the one who started the fight with him in the first place over the land.
Yeah, that's true.
It all stemmed from Horik being selfish and making selfish decisions.
Yes. I don't even know how to explain this guy's behavior. Because it it makes no sense. He's like, he doesn't use logic. And another thing that drives me crazy, if you're going to be a stupid person, fine, be stupid. But if you're going to be a stupid person and you surround yourself with smart people, do what they tell you to do. Take their advice, follow their lead. Don't go against what they're telling you and then make them clean up the mess. Which is exactly what he did to Ragnar.
That's why kings usually have advisors.
Well, it would be awesome if they had listened to them. Yeah, I get a lot of frustration watching Horik scenes. Because he makes no sense.
No impulse control. And he wants immediate gratification for everything.
I'm assuming he's trying to get back at Ecbert because of the ambush, I guess. But, I mean, how many men did they really just kill? 10? It wasn't a big group.
Yeah, but one was the king's son.
I think
so
the
maybe
king's
it was
son
eye for an eye thing.
Was left alive on purpose. So
it did seem that way.
If he's trying to get back at Ecbert, how does he not realize that Ecbert doesn't really care that much about a handful of soldiers? That's not really affecting him.
Mm-hmm.
He just doesn't think things through. He's got no brain for strategy at all.
And he's ruining all their diplomatic options.
Yes, he's burning bridges that Ragnar is relying on. That's why they came back. He's just so frustrating.
All right, well, next week, we're going to talk about Season 2, Episode 9, the penultimate episode of the season. It's called The Choice. Doesn't give you much. What choice do you think it might be? Whose choice? We can start with that.
Sophie's. Let's see. Who has a choice to make?
Ragnar does have some children to choose between.
I don't think it has to do with Ragnar's family. I think that it's going to be something in England. I think they're going to spend some time there. Though, of course, as we always go back to, what is time? How does time pass? What year will it be when we return to the Vikings? In episode 9. Yeah.
1998. It turns into Ever After, where it's just somebody's ancestor telling the
story. Looking at a painting, yeah. I think that based on what Lagertha said about being gone for a long time when she was back in her territories, that we're going to be in England for the next couple of episodes. So I think the choice is going to have to do with something in England. Maybe Ragnar's going to have to make a choice whether or not he's going to beat Horik upside his stupid head. Maybe the choice is going to be, should I kill him with a sword or an axe? Maybe they'll name a whole episode about his struggle to pick a weapon. No, I don't think that Ragnar is going to kill Horik.
What about Athelstan?
Oh, maybe Athelstan will have to decide whether he's going to stay with the English or go back to the Vikings.
Or if he's going to be Christian or pagan.
Making one decision makes the other. He can't be a pagan with the English and he can't be a Christian Viking. And I almost hope that that actually is what it's going to be, because I think that giving him a choice at all will calm some of those inner, demons from whichever place. Calm some of that inner turmoil, because whether it's the right God or not, big G, little g, it will have been his decision. And I think that would go a long way for his mental health. But I also have seen this show before, and it's not too worried about characters' mental health. So I'm not going to hold my breath for that to be the case.
Yeah.
Maybe Lagertha will have to choose between going along with everything Ragnar says or standing up to him with Horik. Because I think Lagertha trusts Ragnar and his judgment, but she also wants to be taken seriously as a partner. I don't know what else it could be. I'm sure it's probably just going to be something that I didn't even know was an option.
It's just All and Kattegat and Aslaug has to choose between 2 different fabrics for her new dress.
Maybe Björn is going to be presented with a choice between his slave girlfriend and a powerful woman like
Kwenthrith?
I was going to say, this nympho princess. Maybe he's going to have to pick between love and strategy.
She is the daughter of a king.
She is. And the only other daughter of a king we've seen just got married. So she seems kind of old for him. But when you're making marriages that are for political reasons, so the age part
she's
doesn't
not
really
that
matter
old.
much. No, I know, but she's...
Yeah, definitely
at least
like
10
years older than him.
Yeah, 10 years older than him. So, I don't know, but if that's the case, I hope he can keep up with her.
Well, he's basically like a 16-year-old boy at this point,
Yeah.
so I'm pretty sure he's gonna
She
have
can
the
mold him to the perfect partner.
All right, Rosanna, what's your top 3 this episode?
These were the top 3 distasteful decisions by characters in this episode. The first decision that I found distasteful, and I'm just going to throw this out here, listeners. I already know that I'm going to come across as judgy by calling these decisions distasteful, and I've come to terms with it, and I hope that you do too.
Yeah, they're not real people. You can be judgmental.
I'm judgmental about real people too, so this doesn't really bother me. So the first distasteful decision was Ragnar decided to kill Ivar. This baby's got twisted legs. He's got to go.
Oh,
I know, it's terrible.
I looked up Ivar the Boneless. He has an entry because he was an actual son of Ragnar Lothbrok. So the story described him as lacking bones, but some people think it was a genetic condition called osteogenesis imperfecta. It causes the body to appear to have an imperfect bone formation. The limbs can bend beyond their usual joints, but also can produce other ill effects and degrading functions. So it can change over time, and it doesn't mean that he's like paralyzed from the waist down or anything, but it does really restrict his actual ability to move in the stories, and it seems like they went historically accurate for that.
The number 2 decision that I found distasteful was the whole Ecbert plus Quinn bedroom scene. I found it very distasteful. It just gave me like a ew, icky kind of feeling.
One thing about this show that disappoints me, okay, I guess 2 parts. 1, it doesn't have enough sex. 2, when it does have sex, it's generally problematic.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And then the third decision that I found distasteful was Erlander's attack on Aethelwulf and his company of merry men.
Yes.
Erlander, I think that he was kind of into that because of the revenge for his brother's death. I think it was Horik that put him up to it, and I think that was a bad decision on Horik's part. So I'm not going to blame Erlander, but, he was there.
It doesn't seem much like Erlander has a mind of his own.
No.
He's in so many scenes, but we've heard him say like maybe a dozen words.
And he seems really young. I don't know if it's because he has curly hair.
Well, he's a lot smaller than Horik, physically. Could be playing a 15-year-old.
Yes, he could. And I don't know if he's going to get a bigger part in this whole, what I see coming is a conflict between Horik and Ragnar. Or if he's just going to continue to be, someone that's told what to do and does it. But I thought the attack was
in bad taste.
It was distasteful.
All right, predictions. Okay, so what's Ragnar gonna do when he finds out what Horik did?
So Ragnar, I think, doesn't show anger very often. He's pretty good at keeping his emotions in check. Actually, that's one of the things I really liked about this episode is how many times they showed him with tears in his eyes, because they were letting him have these vulnerable, private moments that he doesn't usually get to have. I think he has the emotions. I think he's just learned that he has to keep them hidden. So I don't see him having like a big blow up with Horik, even though I think he's going to be pretty mad at him. I think what he might do, which is what he does often, is decide what's going to be the best and do it anyway. And if he has to go a backdoor way to do it, to avoid Horik, he's going to. This is what he's done all along. He does what he wants to do. He makes it happen. He figures out a way. He plans 2 or 3 or 4 steps ahead, and he just puts things in motion. And if Horik gets in the way, he's just going to go around him, but keep going.
I'd love to see him play chess.
Yeah.
Do you think Lagertha is going to go more with Horik or Ragnar? Hell, she could probably go off on her own with all her people and do whatever she wanted to do.
Which is not a bad idea, because she could. Not only would she take her 100 soldiers, I'm sure some of the people that went there with Ragnar would go with Lagertha. So she'd probably take some of them too. I think her loyalty is going to keep her on Ragnar's side. And it's not even just loyalty. I think that's part of it. But I think that she trusts him. Not that she trusts him as a person, because obviously that would be misplaced. But she trusts him as a leader. And I think that she's too smart to trust Horik.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious to everybody that between Horik and Ragnar is the better strategist.
And I think the only reason that she's gone along with anything that Horik has said up to this point is because she agreed with that. That's how she felt too. She wanted an equal partnership. It just happened to line up with what Horik was saying. I don't think she's actually on his side if there were to be sides, which right now there's just supposed to be 3 equal partners, but none of them think that that's actually what's happening.
Athelstan, what's going to happen? What's he going to do? Is he going to have sex with Kwenthrith? Is he going to go become a Viking again? Is he going to stay a priest?
I hope he doesn't go have sex with Quen, because, ew. I don't know if he's going to go back to the Vikings or if he's going to stay with the English. I think that he got really used to being a Viking, and so that was working for him. But there's also a feeling of being home. And I don't know if 4 or 5 years with the Vikings made it the new home, or if England feels like home.
Well, and even though he was a slave in Norway, it seemed like he was freer than he had been in England.
I don't know that he even really knows where he stands in England. I don't know if anybody said, okay, these are your rights. This is what you're allowed to do. This is what you're not allowed to do. And he wasn't a slave for that long, really. I think it got to a point pretty early on that he could do whatever he wanted. He was living as a free man. So maybe that's worth it to go back. I think that he's going to have to decide which faith he actually believes in. And that's going to decide for him which way to go.
Maybe he'll start a new church with weird mixes of gods.
Just a mishmash. Just like the turtle shell earth. What is that religion? Where everybody lives on a turtle or something?
There's the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett where the earth is on the back of a turtle, which is held up by elephants.
Yeah, that might be that's really creepy. Maybe he'll start a new church and that will be where Protestants come from. I don't know. I don't know.
Really early Protestants.
Yeah, definitely.
Who needs Martin Luther? We've got Athelstan.
Exactly. I mean, if he showed up and said, hey, you want to join my church? Most people, I think, would say, yeah, all right. Exactly. Do we all get robes like that? Cool.
I'd totally join his church. You can be my priest anytime.
That's not how priests work, Nikki.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's his religion. He can do what he wants. You know what? I would join his cult. I'll say that.
Oh, yeah. All right. You'd be part of his harem, huh?
Give him my confession.
Now that reminds me of losing my religion. Well, there's Rollo. We haven't talked much about Rollo.
We hardly saw him this episode.
I'm glad, though, that when we saw him, he was smiling.
And he reconciled with Siggy. That was nice.
For both of them. I don't know if he's going to have much of a big part, because he's there to fight alongside Bjorn. So I guess that's just what he's going to do. Maybe Quen will see Rollo and say, that's the one that I want. Then it'll be a fight. I don't know.
What about Aslaug and Ivar and the other kids that are still in Kattegat?
I don't think we'll see that much of them. I think we're going to be focused on England mostly.
Yeah, all the fighters are now in England. We don't have any of our... She's the only... Well, she and Siggy are
and
the
hopefully,
major characters
since
left in Kattegat.
They're very vulnerable being left there, they won't be invaded by some other random mad Viking.
Yeah.
I think Ecbert is going to be very upset when his son says that they were attacked, and that's probably going to sour his opinion of Ragnar, unfortunately. So that's going to cause some issues in their negotiations for sure.
I'd be mad if I were Aethelwulf.
And, when a bunch of people show up on your shore, and one of them is the one that talks to you, and then as you're leaving you get attacked, you're going to assume it was him. You're not going to differentiate between Ragnar's decision and Horik's decision, and it's one group. Right. It's these people, and he's not going to go back to his dad and say, "I talked to Ragnar, and then I got attacked, but I don't think it was Ragnar's decision." No, that's not what's going to happen.
Ragnar seems cool. Yeah, Horik, though, that guy's an asshole.
He's not going to split him up that way. He's going to say, "I went and talked to the Vikings, and the Vikings attacked me."
And he's going to wonder if that was the whole plan the entire time. When Ragnar seemed so sincere about seeing Athelstan, are you worried about what's going to happen to Apple? With this betrayal by the Vikings?
Not really. I don't think that Ecbert is worried about Athelstan switching allegiance.
Not that, but using him to punish Ragnar. Because they can see Ragnar obviously cares about him with getting their arm ring back. He was very touched. Seems like he'd be some good leverage.
Maybe. I don't know. That didn't really occur to me, so I don't know. They do need something to... See, that's the thing, though. Ragnar's always getting punished for somebody else's mistake. Okay, no. Ragnar's always getting punished for Horik's mistake. Every time Horik screws up, Ragnar's the one that has to deal with it. So if they do start torturing Athelstan, as revenge to Ragnar, it's not going to make any sense to Ragnar. Because it's Horik that did it.
They just all need to take a bath together with King Ecbert in his big bathtub.
And then Horik should drown.
We'll be okay.
In the bathtub. Yeah, it's not good.
I really want to give you one teeny tiny spoiler that won't actually tell you anything about what's going on, but
do it.
You'll be dying to know when it actually happens.
Is giving me this tiny spoiler going to make it worse or better?
I just want to tell you, just put this picture in your head. There is one point where Athelstan is in the bath. That's all you get.
Is he really skinny?
I'm not going to tell you. Well, he seems more built up at the beginning of the season when he was fighting with Ragnar.
But now he's just writing on paper.
But yeah, that was a while ago.
Fighting or exercising.
He's doing the jail cell exercises.
Pull-ups in the doorway. So Athelstan is in the bath. I'm pretty sure that if he's in the bath, it's with Ecbert for sure. Because I don't think people are allowed to have a bath without him. Maybe Ragnar's there too. Maybe that's where they make all their negotiations.
Maybe they're just making out.
Yeah, that'd be alright.
I totally ship Ragnar and Athelstan. I should go find some fan fiction on it.
Oh god, no. It's so bad. It's so...
I'm always afraid to, because it always gets way worse than I'm ready for.
I am like pure canon all the way. I don't do fanfic. It doesn't work for me.
There was that one book that was written as fan fiction of Harry Potter that they turned into a book. It was a story about someone writing fan fiction about Harry Potter, and then they used that. It was so meta. You read it. It was by Rainbow Rowell.
Oh, yes. Yes, I did read that, and that was a good book. And as far as I'm concerned, spoiler alert, The Cursed Child might as well have been fan fiction because it was so bad. The storyline was so bad.
I still haven't read it. Okay, so Rainbow Rowell wrote 2 different books. Fangirl was about a woman who wrote fan fiction, and then I think it was Carry On, where she took the stories that the woman had written in Fangirl and made that into a book, which was just basically a book of fan fiction.
So is Carry On the gay vampire?
Yes.
And the straight wizard? The gay vampire and the gay wizard. That is the book I read. I didn't read the other one.
Yeah, Fangirl was the original one. So Carry On is actually meta of Fangirl.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because people were like, well, we want to read the story that you kept talking about, because there were little pieces of it. And so she took that and actually made it into a full book.
I liked Carry On. I liked the way it was
pretty awesome.
Making fun of itself.
Yeah, it was good.
A fanfic of Harry Potter. It was a good book.
But it had really fun plot lines. Yeah, it wasn't the exact same story, just with more people making out.
Right. That's pretty much what fanfic is. Just the wrong people making out.
We've got 2 more episodes left in this season. How do you think this season is going to end? Give me the 2 big things you think are going to happen by the end of the season. You can do it.
It's so hard with the show.
All right, give me 2 deaths you think are going to happen.
Oh, jeez, okay. I think Horik's going to die.
How and by whom?
I'm going to go with a battle death. Yeah.
Okay.
And who else? Okay, I'm going to alter that slightly. Either Horik or his other son. I think one of them, and I'm going to say battle death.
Okay.
Not Bjorn, not Lagertha, not Rollo, not Ragnar.
That's only because you don't want them to die, right? Not because you don't think they actually will.
Exactly.
There's still Floki and Siggy and Ecbert and Aethelwulf.
I don't think Princess Aslaug is going to die. I don't think Floki's going to die. It's so much easier to project the deaths of people that I'm not fond of. I'm trying to think of who else might go.
Or be seriously injured. Maybe not die.
Well, Floki's already been seriously injured. I don't want Helga to die in childbirth, so let's just not even have that on the table.
Okay.
I suppose, especially based on Bjorn's anxiety, he might have a bad injury in battle. That also could set off a whole storyline about Rollo feeling guilty for not being right there. I think Lagertha is going to be alright. She already got beat up pretty hardcore, so in a little while.
Alright, here's another question for you.
Okay.
Who do you think is going to have sex before the end of this season that hasn't had sex together yet? Because somebody else is doing it.
Let's see. Well, I'm not opposed to Lagertha getting a boyfriend. I don't want her to get married. I don't want her to give up her power by getting married, but she could have his consort.
Sure.
Yeah, she could have a consort. Maybe
someone we know.
I don't know. I can't think of anyone that would be all right with me. I was going to say maybe she and Quen will hook up, and they'll just rule England and all of Scandinavia. 2 queens, just run it.
Yep.
Yeah. I could actually really get behind that with their Amazonian warriors. I'm having a hard time guessing how long Quen is going to be in the picture. So it's hard for me to say what could happen with her.
I think she has to have sex with like 8 more people before anything.
Before she can leave.
So basically the next 10 minutes of an episode and you're good.
So I'm going to say battle death for Horik, battle injury for Bjorn.
Nice.
And Lagertha gets a boyfriend.
Love it. Now it's time for Cheek of the Week, where we talk about something awesome that we like and want to share with you. So this week, we're doing my cheek, and I'm going to give a little preamble before I tell you what it is. So last weekend was painfully hot here in Portland. It was, I think, got to 102.
Did it really?
Yeah, on Sunday.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And we're in the northern part of the country, so I'm pretty sure that everything, like in Arizona, just melted away and nobody is alive there anymore. They all died. It's terrible. But it was so hot, and we don't have air conditioning in our house because we live in Oregon, and it doesn't get that hot here usually, so our house is not prepared.
Okay, it gets super hot in my part of Oregon.
It does, but it's a very different
Several
climate.
100-degree days during the summer is expected, but on your side of the state, that's bananas.
It really is. We have all the rain over here. Rosanna's in rural Oregon, eastern Oregon.
It's very deserty.
Yeah, it's high desert there, and here it's... I don't even know what to call the climate exactly.
Wet?
Yeah, there's a lot of rain. And we're, between mountains, and we've got, higher elevation and all that too. So it was painfully hot at my house, and we got my daughter Isadora a kiddie pool, which she didn't care about so much, so we totally took it over in the backyard and lounged in this small kid pool all weekend. It was so nice. Because, we don't have a pool, we're not going to get a pool. We didn't want to go somewhere to swim in somebody else's pool. So we just sat in the backyard with our feet in this pool and just lounged inside of it and leaned back. It's just this little inflatable thing. It's 5x5. The brand is Intex Swim Center. Has little aquarium like fish printed on the side and everything. So we just filled it with water and put our feet in and put the hose in and had a little sprinkler valve thing in there. So it was like Bellagio fountains in our pool. And it was really comfortable and it made such a difference. And it was nice because for a while I just sat in it and leaned back and baked in the sun and turned red as I do in the sun because I'm painfully pale. And it just made everything wonderful. And because it's summer, and I'm sure listeners, wherever you are, unless you're in the Southern Hemisphere, so Australia, you can listen to this and buy it in 6 months. You should buy yourself a freaking kiddie pool because it doesn't take much room. And it's really easy to fill up and deflate. And also if you get an electric air pump, it really helps, which you can get for like $10 or something on Amazon. And just make your summer so much better in your backyard. Or your living room. Probably not a good idea. But
or your front yard.
Yeah, there you go. Or the back of your truck.
Sometimes even just putting your feet in makes such a big difference. Yeah.
It really does. Yeah, I got some reading done. Just sitting around in the pool.
It doesn't take
without
much.
Paying for a pool membership.
And can you believe what a difference in your mood, I'm sure,
between
so being overheated and being cool and
instead
comfortable.
of sweating inside my sweltering house or hiding from the sun in the yard.
You didn't want to kill anybody anymore after that?
I didn't. I was very calm and very zen. It was wonderful. If you want to hear Rosanna's Cheek of the Week, you should listen to the Gentleman Bastards episode for this week, where she will tell you about something very awesome.
Yes, listeners, I will. And you can visit our website to find out about all of our Cheeks of the Week, learn about our other podcasts, send us questions and feedback, and you can support the show through our Amazon affiliate link at somethingcheekypodcast.com/Amazon.
That's our episode. Please leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at SomeCheek and Facebook.com/SomeCheek. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Dig-a-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.